by Antony Loewenstein, who is a journalist and author of Palestine Laboratory. He joins us live from Sydney. Antony, this feels like it could be a really key moment, is it?
I wish I could agree. I
Okay.
mean, what's important to remember here is that when the Saudis are visiting Ramallah to see the Palestinian Authority leadership, the leader Mahmoud Abbas, he was elected in 2005. There has not been a serious election in that area for nearly 20 years. And if you ask many Palestinians, I would argue most Palestinians, although they'd be hopeful that there'd be some possible breakthrough about some kind of serious pressure applied to Israel to end its decades-long occupation, the idea that the Saudis are looking to legitimize Mahmoud Abbas, who's essentially now an illegitimate leader, and that's not just my own personal view, that's the view shared by huge numbers of Palestinians themselves in East Jerusalem and also in the West Bank, let alone Gaza. So the question really is, what is the agenda here? I mean, the agenda is maybe, I think that Saudi wants to obviously get into bed with the US and Israel, more so than they are already, and they're claiming that somehow they will help the Palestinians. But if you ask most Palestinians, for them, the Palestinian Authority is not the path through which that should happen.
Right, so chances of a two-state solution still quite far away then?
I mean, a two-state solution was arguably always dead. And I say that because at the moment it's 30 years since Oslo, the two-state solution was officially declared. There was that famous White House handshake between, the three leaders, with Bill Clinton and the others. And the truth is, 30 years
Yeah.
on, the occupation is never been deeper. In fact, the occupation is now permanent, I would argue. Permanent is for the foreseeable future. And there's no real serious pressure on Israel to do anything about that. I mean, let's not forget, Israel has the most far-right government in its history. It has members of the cabinet who are openly fascist, and in fact, some of them have regularly said, including this week, that there'll never be any concessions to the Palestinians. So if somehow a potential Saudi, US, Israel deal is about giving Palestinians some crumbs, which is what I fear might be the case, the Palestinian Authority might accept that, maybe, because they're essentially a deeply corrupt body. But the Palestinians themselves will not accept that. I mean, without true liberation, freedom, and end to occupation, which is not too much to ask for an occupied population, the two-state solution was never on the cards. And at the moment, it is a one-state solution, which is an apartheid state. But the only just outcome, which again, more and more Palestinians would feel this way, and I say this as someone who is Jewish myself and had spent a lot of time living in Israel and Palestine, is a democratic one state. And I fear that the Saudis have no interest in that, and in fact, trying just to maintain the status quo.
And Antony, you talked a little bit there about Palestinian reaction on the ground, but what about the Palestinian diaspora around the world? How are they reacting to what's going on?
Look, it's been mixed. I mean, it depends obviously who you ask. I think there are some Palestinians within Palestine as well, I guess, to be fair, and also globally, who would like to hope that there's a possibility of some kind of breakthrough if the Saudis are seriously involved. But at the same time, a lot of Palestinians, a lot of people look to Saudi itself as a country, a theocratic state where there's no freedom of speech, no democracy, no human rights, where people who tweet are sentenced to death. And they say, how is that supposed to help us as Palestinians in Palestine? And sadly, I fear that that kind of normalization of autocracy, which is what I think is going to be happening even more so in Palestine, when the Palestinians themselves, both in the diaspora and in Palestine, already say correctly that the Palestinian Authority is imposing a deeply autocratic regime. There is torture, there is a reduction of freedom of speech, there is no elections. How is that something that many Palestinians can feel hopeful for? I mean, ultimately, many Palestinians that I know, both in Palestine but also globally, will say without serious, massive diplomatic pressure on Israel, which ultimately is the occupying power here, nothing much will change and the occupation will continue to deepen.
Antony Loewenstein in Sydney for us there. Thank you very much.